Yo, what's good guys, your boy Pad Music Production, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to mix and master your drums in FL Studio. Really simple, but most people overdo it, and I'm going to show you the most basic way of mixing and mastering your drums using free VST plugins and techniques that I have learned over the 15 years of as a music producer. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you just started watching, make sure you hit the like, drop a comment below, whatever. And I'm going to jump straight to the tutorial. So yeah, let's do this guys. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this the right way. Okay guys, so this is the drum loop that we're going to be mixing and mastering here in FL Studio. Check this out. Very simple, very simple. We got kick, second kick, hi-hat, snare, perk, second perk, like a drum roll kind of perk, and we got another kind of perk here like a drum roll, but overall really simple sounds. And we're gonna mix and master our track. So to do this the right way, what we'll need to do is obviously add them here into our effects channel. So we got kick, we got all of them laid out, all 8 of them. So kick, kick 2, hi-hat, snare. So we just right clicked in here and renamed them all to the you know, the main playlist that we've got here in our channel rack. And then what you want to do, you will have these all set to 0 here on the side. Just want to click in and drag them all the way up so they're laid out same way that you have them laid out here in the effects. So we know that this is kick, kick 2, hi-hat, and so on. So when we play it, we can isolate just the kick just by turning all of these off. Second kick, we can put that on. Hi-hat, snare, perks, and we can control every sound the way it comes in and goes out. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate all the sounds off, and we're going to start mixing and mastering. So we're going to start off with a kick. Now I'm going to be using presets throughout this tutorial. You guys can get these presets from the links below. Also here from Producer's Buzz, I will be using the Auto Master VST Collection Pack, which you guys can download from Melder Productions. There's a link in more description here on Producer's Buzz. We used Auto Pitch before. Today we're going to be using Compressor and also Equalizer. So for the kick, I'm going to be using an Compressor, and I'm going to be going in here and I'm going to be using something called the Kick 2. It sounds really nice and punchy. And I'm also going to be using something called the MEQ, the Equalizer. And I'm going to select the preset on the top here, and I'm just going to select something called the kick. And this gives us a perfect kind of kick sound. Check this out when we play it. Now it all depends on how you want the kick to be punchy, but you take this first kind of band, which is the third band here on the lows, and you move it up and down. Now the more you move it up, the more punchier it gets. You kind of want that to sit around 5 and 6 dB, plus 5 and 6 dB, around 75 Hertz if you want nice punchy kick. But then what you will need to do, obviously, to get that punchier kick, you will need to go in here and take up the velocity. So go into the actual kick, right click, click on piano roll, and this will show you the kick as it is on here. Now most of you might have the kick, you know, it might be like smaller, like this, so you might not see it as much as I do on the screen. You can just select it all by Control and A and dragging it out like this. And then just here at the velocity at the bottom, move them up. This will give us a punchier kick. See that? Way. So without it off, check this out. Move it on. Now obviously we got the limiter on, so we're going to turn off the limiter here on the main master just to equalize the kick volume. So we're going to turn it down until it stops peaking. Okay, so this is the level. Now we're going to be taking it down. Now notice how it's peaking. Keep dropping it down. Keep dropping it down. Perfect. Stop there. Gonna go back here into Fruity Limiter and turn it on. And now we've got perfect kind of kick. Really nice, punchy, heavy kick. That's what we wanted. And we can leave it there. You know, you guys can play around. You can, you know, add a soft clipper if you want on there to stop it from peaking if you're worried about it peaking. Just like this. Now, if you are going to add a soft clipper, I would always advise you to put it first after the compressor. So you might have to actually move the compressor down. So just like this, you would go in here and you would just do it again on here on that second kick, and then you would have the soft clipper right at the top. So just like this. Now most of you are asking, wait, does it matter how you organize these things? Yes, it does. Everything that you stack on top of each other, the last thing you add will always have the last effect. So it's like layers, like in Photoshop you have layers. Starting, you know, from the slots, anything that's added last will have the last kind of effect. So notice that it doesn't peak now. We can move it up if we wanted. Sounds better. So now we've got the ghost kick. Sorry, now we've got the ghost kick that we added. As you can see. So on this ghost kick, all I'm gonna do is add a EQ. So M equalizer, and just select like a kick kind of preset, just like that. Just leave it natural. Just move it down, and that sounds really nice there. It's just like a backup kind of kick, you know, like, you know, you have ghost kicks. Just gives the drum loop and a better kind of drum roll. I'm gonna go into the hi-hats now. So we've got the hi-hats, they come in. Now it's quite important that, you know, the hi-hats are not too high, so we're gonna move the velocity down just a little bit like this. Just sitting there below the kick, kind of like near the ghost kick, but they're gonna sit just a little bit between the kick and the snare. So on the hi-hat, what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the M compressor, and we're gonna select a preset for the hi-hats. So we're gonna select drum first on here, just to give us that drum kind of compression, and then we're gonna put an EQ on top of this. So M EQ, and we're gonna put the equalizer just like that. And on here we're gonna select hi-hats. So we've got the high, like the high U high hooks or the tom high, but the best sound would be obviously hi-hat right here, just like that. And this gives us this, like, the right kind of equalization for hi-hats. We're kind of killing off the lows, but what you want to do is kind of move up the last kind of one. If your hi-hats don't sound too low, you just play around with this, but don't go over plus 3 dB. So where it is down here around -4, just move it up slightly if you don't like it. So let's play it. Now notice you can kill off the highs, you can make them sound higher, but just like this is perfect. Obviously you control the whole sound here, but we just keep it here where it is. Control and Z to undo that. So if you move it out, we hold Control, we can press Control and Z, and it moves it back to where it was, just like that. But sounds perfect the way it is over here. Now if you guys are not happy with the lows being in there, you can always use parametric EQ and kill off the first 2 lows just like that, just to make sure that they're gone. Which they're gone anyway, most of them, but just to make sure that they're not in there. This way we just get in the right kind of frequencies. And that's the hi-hats pretty much Really simple as that. And now we're moving on to the snare. So on the snare, guys, we're gonna go again M compressor. Now you guys can download these for free, the M compressor and EQ. There's more links in more description. You guys can also download the project file and follow me from Producer's Buzz. So on here, on the presets, on the snare, okay, we are gonna select master on the snare. So we get the master kind of compression of the main volume. And then we're gonna go on here and select the right equalization, so the MEQ, and we're gonna select preset and snare drum. Wow, really? That easy? Yeah, check this out. It's giving us a perfect snare drum, killing all those highs, lifting up the mids, and just slowly dimming them down, just giving us that perfect kind of output. Now on the you know, here on the snare, we can take the saturation from anything from 0 and we can move it up to about 7%. So we're going to just put it on like 5, let's say something like 4 and 5. And then output gain, I'm just going to put that up to +1 just to lift up the snare a little bit. And this is what it sounds like. Check this out. I'm just going to take the volume down until it sits there perfectly. Now notice I'm not looking at the volume, I'm looking at the volume up here. See that? So I know the kick is here, the hi-hat's here. So I kind of want the snare, well, the kick is up here, so I want the snare between the hi-hat and the kick. So we've got the kick, you know, maxed out to here being compressed. We've got the hi-hat down here. So the snare, let's move it in between. Perfect. Kick, snare, hi-hat. See that? Kick is the highest, snare just below the kick, and hi-hat just there. Now if let's say we move the hi-hat up like this, then the snare needs to be lifted up a bit between the hi-hat and the snare. So that's like the main kind of trick I like to use when I'm mixing, and always sounds good. So I like to move the hi-hat down a bit, just like this. Don't look at the volumes here, down here. Look at the volume panels up here, what you're mixing and what is set. So we can see the snare is like -4 dB, while the hi-hat is on like -11 dB around here. So that's the kind of sound we're getting. Sounds really nice. Really, really nice. And that is pretty much it on the snare. Now on the snare, usually we can add a bit of reverb just to add a bit of diversity. So we're gonna go on here and click on Fruity Reverb 2. And what we're gonna do is pretty much take the wetness down to 40%. Now you guys, if you look up here in the hint panel, we'll tell you exactly what is where. And we're gonna take it down to about 40%, just like this, okay? And that kind of takes the wetness down, and then we're gonna take the size of this and just drag it up, well, drag it up to about 60, the ring size 60. And this gives us this really nice kind of reverb sound, and the input here can be between 0 and 20 depending on your track, but nothing above 20 on the snare because it sounds just too funky. And you guys can kind of find the right sound. Now if you got too much melody, you might want to add more reverb, but I say stick around 10%. See that? Even lower than that if you want, like 9 or 8. Really nice. And then we got perks kind of sound. So we got this other perk here. So what we're gonna do with this perk equalization is more simpler. We can use Fruity Parametric EQ2 on this perk if you want. And we can go into a preset and we can click on something like tight drum drizzle if we want it. Or we can use a compressor if we want it as well on top of this. Okay, on perks you can use a compressor, and you can also compress the sounds to whatever you want on here. So like drums or upward kind of compression would be cool on here. So we're giving like an upward kind of compression. So this perk really stands out. Now notice how this perk is giving our snare a kind of swing. So we just make it sit there, and on this perk, we're gonna obviously, because we got the flow in the middle here going two, 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 two. We're just gonna take those two in the middle down a bit, just like that. The velocity, just like that. See that? Really nice. Now, if you guys wanted, you can also copy that and move it down if you want to be a bit dramatic. And create like a funky sound, and then move these sounds even lower, the ones you just added at the bottom that are red. And it kind of just widens that perk out a bit, gives it a nice kind of sound. And I like to do that when I kind of mix my perks a bit. Hey, come on. Now, another trick you guys can do, obviously, if you want to add a bit more diversity to the perk, that this could be any perk, you can use this technique. Up here, you've got something called Fruity Shaper. So we're going to add a Fruity Shaper, and we're going to move this 6.7 millimeters to the right. So usually you would have one perk 6.7 and 5.0 to the right, and you can do same to the other perks. So you can have like 3 or 4 different perks, and one perk would be on like between 6. Next one would be like on the other side around 6, and then you would have one sitting on around 1.5, and then one sitting on like 1.5 to the right. And so this is left and this is right. So yellow is left and red is right. And you would kind of mix that, and then you could have some sitting like way above, like halfway lines. And what this will do is create a really nice diversity. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Give us this stereo kind of sound. So let's go to the other perks. So on here I'm going to add a stereo shaper, and I'm going to move this now to the left, like 6, around 5, 6, around here. And do the same for the other drum rolls. So now I'm going to add another stereo shaper, and this time I'm going to go like halfway, so one to the left. And on the last one here, I'm going to go another stereo shaper and go between that, like 1.5 to the right, around here 1.52 to the right. So we've got 4 different perks, and they're using stereo shaper going halfway, like, you know, 3, 1.5, 0, which is nothing. Then we got again to the right, same thing, like a mirror kind of effect, giving us this kind of Dolby Digital kind of perky kind of sound. Check this out. And obviously you can play around with the other sounds and add different kind of EQ. But for the perks, I would kind of recommend you guys using the M compressor on the perks, and using the you got different kind of mixing and mastering. But there's one called Master 6 on here, which is a really nice kind of compression for any kind of perks. You can use this. But notice how, you know, the perks don't have a set volume. They're additions to your track, your drum loop. Your main drum loop is without the actual perks. Your main drum loop is the kick, hi-hat and the snare. Just like that. Then we've got a filler perk coming in. Now that sits just in the middle. And then we've got all the additional kind of sounds coming in. But the main thing of your actual mixing here is the kick. You guys can use this technique to get a nice kind of punchy kick. And obviously, you know, if we turned off the Fruity limiter, notice that, you know, notice how it sounds. You know, it's not distorting, and even with it off, it still sounds really nice and crisp. We don't even have to use the limiter, to be honest, if you listen to this. But with a lot of practice, you guys will kind of reach the same kind of technique. You will get to a point where you will not have to use the Fruity limiter. but I don't usually use them when I mix my tracks. I just turn it off. But I just want to show you guys that, you know, you can control the sounds, and it's not all about putting all the highs and highs, just with the right kind of compressions and equalization. All we've done is we just compressed and EQ'd, compressed, EQ'd, and velocity. That's all you have to do when you're mixing the drums. Compress, EQ, velocity, and then find out what, if you want to, you know, stereo anything, shape it, stereo shape anything to the right or left, and that's it. That's how you pretty much do the drums. And with the right kind of techniques, you know, don't worry too much about the volumes, but always have your kick as the main kind of sound. That's the main kind of sound to your drum, and then you always have your snare below that, and your kind of, you know, your hi-hat would always you would have your hi-hat below that, and then your snare would just sit just there with the hi-hat or just a bit above the hi-hats, and just like that. That's what we've got here, the kind of technique, you know, really, really cool. Or you would have the snare and the hi-hat twisted the other way around. You would have the snare below the hi-hats. So it all depends on how you guys kind of like your sound, but they pretty much be on the same kind of level. Now there's no right or wrong. Every sound, every sample is different, so you need to remember that every sound needs to be mixed to your ears. So try to listen to a few reference tracks and get the right kind of mixing, you know, see how they mix, and try to mix to the same. So, you know, try to take notice of where is the kick in a track. Do you need to make the kick? Do you need to put it up or down? I mean, when I mix, I like to just turn it all the way up to the max, sit there, and I'll listen to the mix for like 20 minutes. And I'll create, you know, sorry you get hear the echo because I turned it up, but I'll create, you know, a vision in my head of what I want, and then I will start play around and be like, oh wait, this snare sounds good, but there's too much reverb on here. I just take it down a notch. Now, even though you move it down 3%, it makes a whole difference in that track. You think, wow, it sounds so much better now. Just that one bit of overdone kind of reverb can really fuck up your track. And that's sorry for swearing, but that's, you know, you gotta really make sure you don't overdo things. So kind of take it easy, you know. And you know, these plugins I use are all free. That's the crazy thing. So you guys can download these mixing and mastering plugins for free and have a go right now. Why don't you go over to Producer's Buzz? You can download this project. It'll be under here, downloads and the project files. It'll be on here. I'll just upload it now. This is called the Mixing and Mastering FL Studio project file. And you will start off with all these kicks and everything laid out for you, so you guys can practice this mixing and mastering technique in FL Studio just as I have done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you hit the like. Got a lot more tutorials coming up, but yeah, let's go straight back out. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you've got any questions, drop them below. This is my first ever mixing and mastering tutorial that I've done for you guys on the drums. I will have one on the melody and how to mix the melodies and stuff with the drums and stuff coming up very, very soon. Also loads of vocal tutorials. We will have a tutorial coming up on the Pop Smoke tutorial, which you guys have been waiting for. I will do this very, very soon. I'm still working on it. I have done it, but it's not perfect, so I'm not going to release it, unfortunately. You guys will have to stay with me. I want to make sure that I get this right when I release it. Don't want to embarrass myself. But yeah, apart from that, thank you for all the love. Thank you for the support. Make sure you go on producersbuzz.com, where you guys can download this template that I've done here with the mixing and mastering of the drums, the snare, the hi-hats and everything that I've done, the perks in this tutorial. You guys can download it in more description and get the full template for FL Studio 12. Apart from that, I'm out. Bad Music Production. Stay safe. Peace out. Ciao.